thank you for having me. And I would like to share some things that I have learned on the process of writing and publishing or self-publishing a book. Four most important things I've learned. Number one, get a tattoo. You need to get a tattoo. And it needs to have Rhonda's name on the tattoo and her email. I don't care where you put the tattoo. That's none of my business, but that's what you're going to want to do. I would not have been able to accomplish publishing a book, writing a book, publishing a book without her help. Rhonda is a lighthouse for me when I was in the fog, and I'm in the fog a lot. So I needed that lighthouse, and she is an amazing person. And if you know her, then I'm preaching to the choir. If you don't know her, then you're missing out on one of the most amazing, helpful, creative, loving people on this planet. And I mean that sincerely. Not only the classes helped me keep moving, they got me started. The year it took to put that book together, when I came to Lowell's and needed just an extra boost and a little bit of motivation. Anytime, either talking with her, emailing her, or taking her classes, which I will continue to do regardless, even if I don't want to publish another book. I'll do that because the person, Rhonda, and the classes enrich your soul. And I'm kind of like, from my book, that left me as a different person when I was done. Knowing her and what I learned in those classes, and the connections of the wonderful people that are participants in those classes, enriched my soul. So get your tattoo when you're going to write your book, and have it handy there along the way. Number two, what I did and what you may do is you're going to take about a year, and you're going to write your book, and you're going to get helpful hints along the way. You're going to share it with people, and you're going to think about it all the time with your feedback, and then you're going to finish that book, and it's going to feel wonderful. Congratulations, you did it, and you're halfway done. There is so much more after that that I did not know. The writing part was actually, for me, the easier part. But you're halfway there. Congratulations, you've got your story. While you're only halfway there, you got to decide whether you're going to self-publish that book or seek out a traditional publisher. I chose self-publishing, partly because I believed that I would, by self-publishing, that it just kind of had the ring of that it would be inexpensive to do so. Great, self-published. That sounds kind of like making my own bread. You're gonna pay. to self-publish your book. You're going to want to hire a professional editor, and you're going to want to hire a professional designer for the cover and the interior of that book. And if you don't know someone that can do that, then go look at your tattoo and seek your. Rhonda can give you some referrals. She recommended a couple of people who were phenomenal and very reasonable in their pricing. But expect to pay between $2,600 up to $7,000 for your self-published book. So there is the cost to it. I've never let that bother me, though. Even if I would have had to borrow the money, because it was an investment in myself. And I've spent money on much things in life that were less than myself, and this was an investment in me. So those numbers may sound high, but you have to put it in perspective of what it's for, and that helps. When it first was out there, when friends would talk about it, I'd go back and try to read it, and it was very hard. I didn't because I saw things that I would want to change. I didn't. I wasn't thrilled with it, and it's an evolution, I think, of acceptance that I went through to now that I can honestly say, and I was born in a Midwest Protestant family where you're not supposed to think too. You can get caught up too easily in bragging about yourself, and don't think you're hot because you're not. But I love that little book, and I mean that almost to the point that, and I'm not a religious person. I may have some aspects that are a spiritual person, but at times I almost feel like that I didn't write that book. That book was written through me. I believe that because of people telling me when they read it that it meant so much to them, and that the trials and struggles that they faced at the same time when they were laughing through the stories. My goodness, I can honestly say I love that. I love that little book. You can try to go through a traditional publisher, and certainly some people do that. The only problem with that is, in my opinion, and why I didn't, is because two things. You're going to lose complete control over the book, including how it looks. If you get a publisher to publish your book, they are going to control every facet of it. And about 9 months later, after they get it, you're going to get the book and see what it looks like. So you lose control of the content, you lose control of the rights to it. And for some people, self-publishing is not their thing. And but the downside is with traditional publishing, the things I mentioned. And then lastly, there is a food chain in traditional publishing, and as the author, you are at the bottom of that food chain. So all that there are a lot of people who are going to take bites out of that book before you get that little bit from the publisher. So actually, I think in this day and age, self-publishing, you can probably, unless you're a Stephen King, recoup your money and even make a little bit than with a traditional publisher. Number 3. Okay, you've got your book in hand, this beautiful book. This was my memoir of the time when I lost my mind and had to make some life decisions, and including the most important one of those was whether to live or not. And but I've got that beautiful book. It's either been self-published or published, and it's an incredible feeling to hold that thing. Guess what? I'm still only halfway done. You gotta market it. And if you're self-published, you're on your own marketing it. And if it's traditionally published, you're on your own marketing it. Because unless, again, you are a well-known author, traditional publishing is not going to market your book. They're going to expect you to. I went through Kindle Direct Publishing, and as my self-publisher, so that put it on Amazon, and thought I would, well, just now sit back and just watch this beautiful book that people were telling me they loved, and that it would just sell by itself. And that happened a bit, but then it kind of stalled some, and I began to frantic. How am I going to get people to see this book? And it wasn't for the money. This book, I believe, and very strongly, that there are people out there, and they have told me as well, that after reading it, it resonated with them. That there's, I told Rhonda, the book's kind of like Grandma's nightshirt. It covers everything. And so how to market it, and people around me say, well, you got to use social media. And so let's talk about that. And what's your, people would ask me, what's your social media presence? Well, the closest I have to social media presence, and traditional publishers, before they publish your book, they're going to want to know what your social media presence is. How many followers do you have? And my social media presence is I have it, but it's when my wife shows me humorous dog shows or videos from her Facebook account. That's my presence. I don't have Instaface or TikTok. I don't know, it's called something like that. None of that. It doesn't interest me. I'm not comfortable with it. And if you do have that interest in social media, it can be certainly a way to promote your book, but you have to go with what you're comfortable with, and that isn't for me. One of the things you want to do as a segue is have your book POD, print on demand. So I may I may get 100 books, and then I hit the pavement and go to the bookstores and ask them, will they put my book in their store? And or I'll through friends, through networks, through there's ways that you can sell your books using social media or not. And when you've run out of ideas, look at your tattoo. Lastly, number 4, I learned that the process of writing and putting a book out there for people to see was terrifying. I have a lot of fears, and if I forget what my fears are, I'll make up one. And I've struggled with anxiety and depression most of my life. I consider them co-parents. I do depression through the week, and anxiety takes over on the weekends. So they kind of co-parent. And I would wake up when this book got close to being out there. I woke up many times in the middle of the night, just in terror that I was exposing myself, both as a writer and that my reputation as a writer, which I have none, that would be judged, and then secondly, exposing myself in some very private ways that I was not. I'm not an exhibitionist, but to come out and say, hey, I've got some flaws. I'm an alcoholic. I'm in recovery, and to know that friends and family who may have already known that, or people who didn't, it's scary. I came to a period in my life in which I was spiraling downward through addiction, through depression, and made an impulsive decision upon retirement, and I took an early retirement. Made this crazy decision as I'm going spiraling down to go to Belize, and not knowing that some universe force was leading me there in order to heal. And the whole thing just sounded ridiculous, both to myself and to those who I explained it to. And I think God was very supported by my wife. It wasn't easy for us, but she knew I needed help and healing. She knew I was not in a good space, and this is what I said I needed to do. I was going to Belize. I'd never been to Central America. I'd never been to the country of Belize. I knew no one there, but that's where I was going to go. And I don't like heat, and I try to avoid the sun. So I went, and for 6 months, I took my bike with me. I had a car for about a total there in 6 months for 10 days. The rest of the time I was on a bicycle, and lived in a small apartment that it was just right, and the universe led me there and put some people in my life, including one significant young man that I write about quite a bit in my book. The book was then a story of what led me to going and what happened to me there and what has become since. And in one word, I guess, and I'm not saying this to be hyperbolic. It was magical. As an alcoholic, the minute I stepped into Belize, my desire to drink was gone, and have been sober since. I can't explain it. Um, the and so I needed to be able to flesh that out in a narrative, in a book, that so I could understand myself, and for my friends and family, to maybe get an understanding of why I left and what happened to me there, if they didn't already know. And then for those who, as all of us have struggles in our lives, maybe they could take away something from what happened, this crazy thing that happened to me. And so I'd lay there at night, not being able to go back to sleep. And I memorized a quote from Sir Anthony Hopkins, the famous actor. And I would say his philosophy to myself, that became my serenity prayer. And my wife was, for a Christmas present, she framed it for me, and I'll read it. Anthony Hopkins says, "My philosophy is, it's none of my business what people say of me or think of me. It's none of my business. I am what I am, and I do what I do. I expect nothing and accept everything. And it makes life so much easier." And I would say that to myself a few times and then go back to sleep. And I have no regrets. I enjoyed every minute of it. That doesn't mean I was of the process. It doesn't mean I wasn't frustrated at times, but I loved every minute of it. The writing, the rewriting, accepting feedback that was wonderful and feedback that was very challenging. I think everyone has a book in them, and that you should write it. It'll change your life, and it did mine. And with that, I'll just say, my name is Patrick Alan Butler, and I approve this message.